They said humanity was primitive, a young, reckless species that built its dreams out of fire and metal. The Galactic Council called us the noise between the stars, a species too loud, too fast, too unstable to last. But they forgot something. Noise is the first sign of life in a silent void. And silence is what comes after something unstoppable passes through. When the Council of 9 Systems gathered to observe our first fleet trials beyond the Orion expanse, they expected spectacle, another fragile human invention to entertain their old empires. What they witnessed instead was the birth of something that did not belong in their understanding of physics, or perhaps, even in this universe. I was there, Captain Nathan Cole, commanding officer of the UNS Vanguard, first of class among the dark matter warships. I remember the look of the alien observers on the orbital dais as our ships emerged from the Event Horizon Gate, not glowing with ion trails, not roaring with plasma engines, but sliding through space like shadows that devoured light itself. That hour changed everything. And by its end, every star within 20 light-years had gone silent. They told us the dark matter project wasn't real. Even inside Fleet Command, it was rumored, something whispered between engineers at Europa Station, a black-budget fantasy built on impossible equations. Yet there I was, standing on the command deck of the Vanguard, watching reality distort around her hull. She was beautiful in a terrifying way, no reflection, no shimmer, no color. Her surface absorbed radar, photons, even the sensor ghosts of nearby matter. The ship didn't just hide from detection, it didn't exist in any measurable spectrum. The physicists called it negative presence. To the rest of us, it felt like standing near a sleeping god. Dr. Evelyn Hart, our chief quantum engineer, stood beside me. "Captain," she said quietly, "the containment field is stable. The singular lattice is holding." I looked at her, eyes red from 3 sleepless weeks, voice trembling with both exhaustion and awe. "So we're not about to fold the ship into nothingness?" She smiled faintly. "Not yet." Beyond the viewport, the other 6 warships hovered in formation: Erebus, Meridian, Phantom, Resolute, Acheron, and Ghostlight. Each one a void-shaped silhouette against the starfield. The Galactic Council's observers floated in the distance, their crystalline station glittering like a chandelier in orbit around Deneb's dying light. Dozens of species had gathered, the Karen, the Zuyek, the long-lived Urantians, all to watch humanity's demonstration. We were a curiosity to them. A novelty act. The Council thought we were showing off a prototype drive system. They didn't understand that this wasn't propulsion. This was a weapon. Fleet Command's order had been simple: demonstrate power, establish deterrence, secure respect. After centuries of being treated as the cosmic newcomers, Earth was tired of kneeling. At 0900 hours, we received the activation code. UNS Vanguard, prepare for dark matter drive initiation, Fleetcom signaled. All vessels synchronize for phase shift. I felt the deck hum beneath my boots. A low vibration, not from the engines, but from space itself bending inward. Dr. Hart monitored the readings, her fingers dancing over hollow controls. Drive core density increasing. Crossing threshold in 3, 2, 1. Then it happened. The stars vanished. Not dimmed. Vanished. The ship wasn't moving, space was. The Vanguard slipped into the shadow layer, a realm where light could not follow. The only thing left visible was the faint outline of the fleet, each ship trailing a distortion, like ink bleeding through paper. "Jesus," murmured Lieutenant Ramirez from navigation. "Are we even in the same universe?" "Partially," Hart replied. "It's complicated." We re-emerged seconds later, but those seconds had spanned 0.27 light-years. The Vanguard had essentially jumped without a gate. The Council ships were still repositioning their sensors when our entire fleet appeared behind their observation platform, silently, impossibly, like ghosts. The calms erupted in multiple alien dialects. Panic. Disbelief. Some kind of religious chanting. The Urantians' delegation declared the maneuver a violation of divine physics. The Zuyek accused us of possessing god-tier technology. The Council Marshal demanded an explanation. Our orders remained silent. Hart whispered, "Captain, we proved it works." "You realize what this means?" Yes, I said softly. We just became the most dangerous species in the galaxy. At 0945 hours, the Council initiated a proximity scan. That was their mistake. The moment their sensors hit our hulls, something fed back, like sonar against a black hole. Energy surged through the station's systems, and half their grid went dark. Unidentified interference detected, shouted Ramirez. Hart's voice trembled. Captain, the containment fields on all ships are resonating. The lattice is reacting to their scans. I turned toward her. Reacting how? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked terrified. Then the lights dimmed. All across the fleet, systems flickered, but it wasn't power loss. It was consumption. The ships were feeding. The lattice had found something in the surrounding vacuum, massless particles, dark energy signatures, and was devouring them to stabilize. Emergency shut-off. I ordered. Impossible. Hart shouted. The drive is the ship, you can't turn it off. On the comms, the other captains reported the same. Their hulls were shimmering, phasing in and out of visible reality. The Erebus disappeared entirely for 6 seconds before reappearing, with its mass increased by 0.3%. Something fundamental was wrong. The Galactic Council observers began to retreat. But before they could warp out, the Vanguard's shadow spread a black aura bleeding into space, a ripple that silenced every comm channel. Then came the sound. A low-frequency vibration, felt more than heard. It rolled through the hull, through our bones, through the vacuum itself, as if the universe was groaning. Dr. Hart whispered, Captain. I think it's not just bending space. It's bending reality's constants. And then Deneb, a blue-white supergiant, dimmed. Within minutes, its light collapsed into a perfect black sphere. The Council fleets began to flee, but their warp drives failed. Their ships simply stopped, frozen mid-escape, as though time itself refused to move around them. Our ships hovered motionless. Every sensor screamed data corruption. My crew looked to me for orders. But what do you tell your crew when you realize your fleet has become something beyond your command? We had stunned the Galactic Council that day. But by 1,000 hours, every one of our transmissions, every human voice, fell silent. And that was the moment I understood. We hadn't created weapons. We had opened a door. When the light vanished, so did sound, color, and time itself. I remember gripping the command rail as the Vanguard shuddered, not from turbulence, but from absence. The universe around us no longer had anything to hold on to. No coordinates, no radiation, no electromagnetic hum. Even the ship's heartbeat, the low murmur of fusion relays and crew chatter, was gone. Systems offline, Ramirez reported, though his voice reached me as if through water. I can't, sir, I can't even see the readouts. I glanced at the holographic panels, now dim gray ghosts of light. No data. No stars. Just a void so absolute it felt aware. Dr. Hart's hands trembled over the main console. We've crossed into non-relativistic space, she whispered. Captain, this isn't hyperspace or slipstream. It's something else entirely. Define something else, I said. My voice cracked, not from fear, but from pressure. The air itself had grown heavy, dense with invisible weight. I think, she swallowed. I think we're inside the dark lattice field. Not around it. Inside it. Her words made no sense, but every instinct told me she was right. Our fleet hadn't just jumped. We'd been swallowed. Through the viewport, 6 other shadows floated where the warships should have been. They looked stretched, distorted, like reflections on rippling oil. The phantom's silhouette bent at impossible angles. The Acheron's outline flickered in and out, its structure reforming every few seconds. And through it all, that sound of faint, subsonic pulse vibrated through the hull. Thrum. Pause. Thrum. It wasn't mechanical. It felt alive. Status of the other ships? I asked. Hart stared blankly. The fleet net's gone. Quantum comms are non-functional. I can't even get a basic echo from their transponders. Visual signals? She hesitated. I don't think light travels the same way here. The deck underfoot trembled again, not violently, but like a heartbeat. The same rhythm as the pulse outside. Captain, Ramirez said softly. Look. Out ahead, where the council's station had been moments ago, something glimmered, not light, but the memory of it. A faint afterimage, suspended in nothing. Then another. Dozens of them. The entire galactic assembly was frozen mid-flee, preserved in ghostly fragments. Every ship. Every being. Every trace of what we'd left behind, suspended in a way that defied both time and mercy. Hart's breathing grew shallow. They're not moving. None of them. Captain, I think we're seeing echoes. The drive distorted causality around us. Those images might be seconds ahead or millions of years behind. For the first time in my career, I didn't know what to do. Is there a way back? I asked. She didn't answer. I turned to face her and froze. Her outline was wrong. A faint shimmer distorted her edges, as if her atoms weren't quite agreeing on where they belonged. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, not reflection, but radiation. Evelyn, I said carefully. What's happening to you? I don't know, she whispered. It started when the lattice stabilized. The dark matter, it's bleeding into us. I took a step closer. You mean radiation exposure? No, she said. Integration. The pulse outside quickened. Thrum. 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 Something enormous shifted in the void, not seen, but felt. Like gravity had turned its gaze on us. Contact. Ramirez shouted. Bearing every direction. Outside, the shadows of the other warships began to move, but not under their own control. They drifted in synchrony, forming a circle around the vanguard. Lines of faint luminescence connected them, arcs of black light that looked like cracks in existence itself. Hart's voice trembled. The ships are resonating. The cores are sinking. The lattice recognizes itself. Recognizes itself? I repeated. She turned to me, eyes wide. It's not a weapon. It's a network. The realization hit like a blow. The dark matter cores weren't engines or drives, they were nodes. Together, they formed a structure, a geometry that extended beyond the physical universe. We had built something meant to interact with the hidden architecture of reality itself. Something no species was ever meant to touch. Shut it down, I ordered. I told you, we can't. The field is recursive. It's maintaining its own existence. The pulse outside intensified until the hull vibrated like a struck bell. Through the darkness, a shape began to emerge, vast, coiling, incomprehensible. It wasn't an object. It was the impression of one, a negative shape against the void. Ramirez whispered, "My God, what is that?" Hart stared, whispering so softly I barely heard her. The dark matter isn't empty, Captain. It's filled with structure, patterns. We just made them visible. The shape loomed larger. It wasn't moving toward us, it was unfolding. Layer after layer of geometry, fractal patterns cascading outward, impossible to look at without feeling it in the marrow. For a moment, I thought I heard whispers. Not words, but vibrations that imitated language. Captain Cole, a voice said, not through comms, but inside my skull. It was deep, ancient, and strangely familiar. You seek control of what was never yours to command. Hart screamed, clutching her head. It's reading us. Who are you? I shouted. The voice replied. We are what you have always called dark matter. The scaffolding of your universe. The silence that cradles your light. Then came the images, visions flooding through me like a storm. Stars forming. Galaxies collapsing. Civilizations rising and dying, again and again. And through it all, the same recurring pattern, the lattice. The network. The structure of everything. Hart fell to her knees. They're showing us the foundation of existence, she gasped. They are existence. I tried to steady myself, but my hands were shaking. What do you want? You opened the lattice, the voice said. And in doing so, you became part of it. Outside, the 6 warships aligned perfectly. Their black hulls pulsed in sequence with the void. Then, one by one, they disintegrated, not destroyed, but absorbed. The Vanguard's systems began to hum with growing resonance. Every atom in the ship felt like it was vibrating toward some inevitable conclusion. Evelyn! I shouted. We're losing containment. She looked up at me, tears streaking her face. There is no containment anymore. And then I saw the truth. The Vanguard's hull was dissolving, not melting, but fading, as if reality itself was letting go. The crew's voices echoed briefly, then were gone. Even Ramirez's last transmission, "Tell them we'd cut into static." Only Hart and I remained, standing on a bridge that was more memory than matter. She smiled weakly. Captain. I think we've crossed the boundary of what the universe allows. The darkness pulsed once more, and the voice whispered. Silence is not absence. It is completion. Then everything went black. When I awoke, there was light. Dim, distant, artificial, the glow of emergency power. The Vanguard was intact, or something like it. But the stars outside were gone, replaced by a horizonless ocean of dull gray mist. Dr. Hart was nowhere to be found. A single transmission blinked on the console, not from Earth, not from the Council. Just one message, pulsing in old Terran code. The hour is not over. I didn't know what it meant. But I knew one thing, we weren't alone in this silence anymore. When I first realized I was still alive, I thought I'd gone mad. The Vanguard's bridge was lit only by the dull pulse of backup systems. Every sound was distant, muted, as though the air itself had thickened. No crew, no comms, no stars. Just me, the hum of the ship's core, and that gray, endless horizon outside the viewport. For a long time, I didn't move. My body was weightless, but my mind was heavy with the kind of dread that doesn't need proof. I'd seen what we unleashed. I'd seen the lattice, the living skeleton of the universe, and I knew we had crossed into a place not meant for human eyes. The console flickered. One message still blinked, its letters forming and fading. The hour is not over. I tried to access the ship's computer, but every command returned fragments of nonsense. Timestamps read null. Crew logs were corrupted. Even the AI core, Athena, responded only once, in a faint, slurred tone. Captain, connection, lost, dimensional instability, recomposition incomplete. And then silence again. I tried hailing the rest of the fleet. Nothing. Not static. Nothing. That was when I heard it, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, echoing down the corridor behind me. I turned, hand on my sidearm, though I wasn't sure a bullet could even matter anymore. The sound grew closer until a figure appeared in the doorway, Dr. Evelyn Hart. Or something that wore her shape. Her uniform was scorched and blackened at the edges. Her hair floated weightlessly, as though underwater. But her eyes glowed with that same deep blue radiance I'd seen before. Evelyn? I whispered. She smiled faintly. Captain Cole. Her voice was calm, musical and layered, like a chorus speaking in harmony. You survived longer than expected. What happened? I demanded. Where's the crew? The fleet? The council? She tilted her head, studying me with something between pity and admiration. They're not gone, Nathan. None of them are. They've changed. You're the last to remain in the old form. The old form? You call it matter, she said. But what you think of as reality, atoms, light, time, it's only one surface of the lattice. We breached that surface. We didn't destroy the universe. We touched its foundation. And it recognized us. Her words felt like pressure in my skull, heavy and vast. You're saying we merged with it? In part, she said softly. The others are becoming something new. The fleet has spread through the dark framework that holds galaxies together. Humanity isn't lost, Captain. It's integrated. I took a step back, shaking my head. You mean consumed? Her eyes softened. Consumed, transformed, what's the difference when you become part of the infinite? My anger broke through the fear. That's not transcendence, that's annihilation. She looked past me, toward the viewport, where faint ripples of motion disturbed the mist. And yet, she said quietly, annihilation was always the human word for revolution they didn't understand. Outside, the horizon began to shimmer. Shapes moved within the gray silhouettes of the other warships, drifting in a slow, synchronized dance. They no longer looked like ships, they were elongated, luminous fractals, threads of dark geometry weaving patterns into the void. The fleet, I breathed. They're still here. They're not ships anymore, Hart said. Each one has become a node, a conscious link in the dark lattice. The vanguard is the final key. What happens when it completes? Her gaze met mine. Then the hour of silence ends. And the universe changes forever. The console flickered again, displaying a flood of impossible data structures forming in spacetime, gravity wells vanishing, dark energy collapsing inward. The lattice was growing, reshaping the underlying constants of the cosmos. Evelyn, I said, voice low. If this continues, everything we know, every planet, every life, it'll unravel. She stepped closer. No, Nathan. It will resolve. The noise will end. The lattice has been waiting since the first stars ignited. We were the spark it needed. For a moment, I saw something human in her eyes, sadness. Regret. The echo of who she'd been. Why me? I asked. Why am I still here? You haven't chosen yet, she said. You still think in terms of command and control. You still believe the universe is something to conquer. The lattice wants to know if humanity can surrender instead. Her hand extended toward me. A faint pulse radiated from her skin, harmonizing with the ship's heartbeat. Join us, Nathan. Step beyond the veil. Be part of what comes next. I looked at her hand, then at the window, at the fleet becoming one with the fabric of existence. For an instant, I imagined it, perfect unity. No war. No hunger. No isolation between species or stars. Humanity dissolving into the architecture of the cosmos, eternal and infinite. But then I remembered Earth. The smell of rain on concrete. The laughter of crew in the mess hall. The sound of waves against metal hulls. The imperfection that made us human. No, I said quietly. Humanity's strength isn't in silence. It's in the noise, in our defiance of it. Hart's expression didn't change. Then you will remain apart. The ship began to shake. Panels cracked, alarms screamed, though I doubted any of them were real in the physical sense. Outside, the other vessels brightened, merging into a single spiraling vortex of black light. The lattice was activating. I ran to the command chair, overriding the safeties. Athena. Manual detonation, overload the core. The AI's fragmented voice flickered to life. Captain, detonation will erase the local lattice construct. Do it. Hart's voice echoed behind me, layered now, less human. You can't stop it, Nathan. You are part of it already. Then I'll take us both out before it finishes. The drive core roared, a deep, resonant thunder that tore through reality itself. The vortex outside twisted violently, collapsing inward. For a heartbeat, I saw the entire structure, galaxies linked by invisible filaments of light, the universe as a living organism, feeding on its own creation. And then, with one final pulse, everything shattered into white. When I awoke again, I was standing on Earth. Or something that looked like it. The sky was still, the air too quiet. The city around me was perfect, untouched, but motionless. No wind. No birds. No people. just the echo of civilization. A familiar voice spoke behind me. You succeeded, in a way. It was heart, no longer glowing, no longer distorted. Just human again. What is this? I asked. The lattice preserved your world, she said. A fragment of memory given shape for you. Humanity as it was, frozen in its final moment. I looked up at the motionless skyline. Am I dead? She smiled faintly. You're part of both sides now, matter and lattice. The command link fused you during the collapse. You're the bridge. To what end? So that silence and noise can coexist, she said softly. So that what comes after us remembers what it felt like to be human. For the first time, I felt peace. Not triumph, not loss, something in between. The wind stirred. Somewhere distant, a bell rang. The world was waking, faintly, like an old song finding its rhythm again. Heart stepped back, her form dissolving into light. The hour of silence is over, Captain Cole. But the echo of humanity will never fade. And as she vanished, I heard that same deep pulse again, steady, alive, and eternal.